I've often had to chosen to counsel people on who talk to me about doing startups, and I've mostly done startups. I've worked for some big companies, but I've mostly been part of startups. A couple that were my own that I started, and a couple that I was part of that other people started. And the one thing that I have found kind of constant is a feeling of insecurity. Kind of in two areas. One is about what's happening with the business, and the other is about my ability to do what it is that I have to do. So I kind of want to talk a little bit about that, and I want to do it because hopefully it'll be cheaper than therapy, totally cathartic. But actually, in all honesty, although I probably wasn't being totally dishonest with that, I have found, as I have compared notes with other entrepreneurs, that other people tend to experience this too. And I think it's just helpful to say, all right, brother or sister, right, I know what you're going through. This too shall pass. And to understand, therefore, that like, all right, that's a normal thing, not unique to feel that. So I wanted to give a little bit of context to share some personal stuff that ultimately I think has kind of impacted my ability to really use fear, uncertainty, doubt as a tool to be smarter, more capable, more focused. So I had a tough childhood. I didn't have a dad in my life. I had a young mom who was kind of a hippie mom, and she was a waitress, and we were on food stamps, and we moved a lot, and it bummed me out. I mean, there was a lot of shame in my life, but and I actually was I was pretty overweight, like as an 11, 12-year-old, kind of early teens, but I actually was like not too discontent with that. I mean, I was embarrassed about my mom. Like, I was in a small town in North Carolina. I wouldn't walk with her because she like wore Guatemalan clothing and smoked pot. It's a theme I'll come back to a few times. But other than that, like I had fun. But I had what I will call my one of two significant BMOIs, big major. Big moment of insecurity, which kind of changed me in initially awkward and uncomfortable ways, but ultimately in very important ways. So I was in 8th grade, and I had a crush on a girl named Lori Cloudfelter, who I've been trying to find on Facebook for years now. And so sadly, my love was unrequited, and one day I was with her best friend at the University Mall in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. It was our only mall, and I asked her friend, like, well, why doesn't Lori dig me? And she looked at me, and she kind of did this once-over thing, and she said, I mean, look at you. You're wearing JCPenney no-name high-water jeans, which I was. You got a T-shirt with like a CB radio reflective decal, which is cool now, by the way. That part's, and she's like, you're totally uncool. Now, I have to say, I understood at 8th grade that I knew I wasn't popular, but I didn't, and I knew there were groups, but I actually had absolutely no idea, really none whatsoever, that people judged you by like what you wore. I mean, I was like the guy in Plato's Republic, living in the cave, fine, but then someone yanks you from the cave, and they're like, dude, sunlight, here it is. Because I'm in the mall, and I'm looking at kids, because that's where the junior high and high school kids would cruise, and they're wearing Levi's and Izod and Lacoste and whatever the marijuana leaf one, the Boast. And suddenly in that moment, I was like, oh my God. Like, people must make fun of me. Really, I didn't know. I didn't have brothers, sisters, hippie mom. Like, I literally went home, and I cried to my mom. I'm like, how could you not tell me about this stuff? People think I'm a fool. And that night, we went out, and we got Levi's, and I've not worn anything but Levi's on my ass since, by the way. That's a true story, much to the chagrin of many people. But so that started off a process of insecurity in a new way. Like, suddenly I was well, I'll get to that in a second. So the next BMOI, big moment of insecurity, was about a year later, and I was, I had just started smoking pot, which I don't endorse. By the way, this is being filmed, right? I've never touched it since. But I had just gotten stoned for like the second or third time, and I'm walking to a friend's house, and I had my first like high awareness. You know what I'm talking about. And I don't mean that like you want to go eat Chinese buffet. I mean like I had a deep thought, and what it was I at that point in life, probably for you too, summer was the most incredible period you could have. School's out, it's warm, you can do whatever the hell you want. Like that was the penultimate period of time. And what I noticed now in this stoned and deep thought state was I realized like, wow, man, summers are going by faster and faster. So I did quick math, and I'm like, I bet life's going to be like this. Like, and suddenly this image, which was me in a rocking chair, like at the end of my life, going, man, life like went by really quickly. And I was like, that's going to happen. I mean, this was like I took a step back, and I'm like, wow, okay, man, that's a big thing. And so then I really spent some time, at times aided by medicinal support, like thinking about, well, what do you make of that? Like, what do you do with that? Because that's a metaphysical insecurity at the deepest level, right? Life is precious, precarious, and fast. And what I came to conclude was that I was not going to be able to do anything to slow life down. Not going to happen. But if I played it right, along with that awareness, man, it was just yesterday that I was 14 and, thinking about myself right now, oh my God, it's so fast. I could feel like, I lived a good life. I lived a very content life. I loved, I was loved, I feel fulfilled. Like that's attainable. Slowing down life, not attainable. Feeling fulfilled at that point, like that's the most important thing. And so with those two things, an insecurity about myself, my physical self, my intellectual self, and an insecurity about my metaphysical self, I think I actually kind of carved a really important thing, because driven by Lori's unrequited love and definitely a chip on my shoulder and some shame, I first realized I could change my physical appearance, and literally in 1 month I lost 20 pounds. I just different story, although it happened here in LA, interestingly enough, but and it ended with a binge at IHOP that I've never felt so full in my life after that. But anyway, and when I realized I could change my body, like that was incredibly empowering, because I was like, I can sort of pick lots of things and change them. Like I have that power. I can, as Thoreau said, advance confidently in the direction of my dreams and like make that stuff happen. And then because of the BMOI on the metaphysical side, I really became very introspective, high school, college, and it started with like the Carlos Castaneda series and the self-help books, I'm okay, you're okay, but then I, graduate. That's like, getting into jazz with the Spyro Gyro, but then you discover the good stuff, the John Coltrane's, the Camus, the Kafkas, the Thoreau's, Buddha, and it really clarified kind of core values to me, which I got to acknowledge my mom, my hippie mom. I think I got a lot of that stuff. And as I considered those things, I really became clear, like, what are the things that I most enjoy? And at the time, playing Legos and waterfalls and dancing and being with friends and laughing. And I realized they all had in common presence of mind, being conscious, and love. Just kind of engaging at a fundamental level. And so, and years later, I developed a more formal exercise about that, which I'll tell you about in a second. But so my first BMOI, my first insecurity, really drove me to excel and better myself. But my other one, the metaphysical one, made me question my motive and intention and you know, keep it real. And I mean that on a very fundamental level. And you know, I got the Levi's, but I didn't do the other things that many kids did for acceptance. Some subtle and really harmless, like, you know, the clothes thing and makeup. If you're a guy, I don't know, but you know, others more dramatic, like, you know, cutting class or ridiculing others, or, you know, vandalism. And I know friends that got into that. So this was really my introduction to cultivating insecurity as a tool for self-awareness and growth and professional success. So most important to all of this was the recognition that I really had the power to take the stuff that I was insecure about and change them. This is kind of profoundly important and really key to the point I want to make here. Now, you know, some people believe in The Secret, and I've actually never watched it or read it, but I understand that it's sort of, you know, just really believe in things, vision it, and it'll happen. But some people, the way it's been described to me, it's like the universe will align, and, you know, maybe that's true, but I think the biggest part of The Secret, the secret of The Secret, maybe, I mean, I shouldn't really be saying this because I don't know it, but it's just taking initiative and course correcting along the way, and staying focused and course correcting along the way, and making mistakes and learning and course correcting along the way. And as you do that, as you have little victories, bigger victories, little victories, and bigger victories, you realize that you can do that more, and you start to have perspective. And then suddenly, the inevitable insecurities that will come up along the way, you at least understand this too shall pass, and you have the tools to understand that. And it doesn't mean, therefore, that you, and maybe you will reach enlightenment, and God bless you, and then you do your secret, but most of us won't. And the important part is, you know, the journey is the reward. And this helps you to understand that you can make that journey.